Welcome students. Welcome to the lecture number 4 of MySQL revision tour. Let's begin beta. In the previous lecture we have studied about some commands like how to view the list of the databases. So we know that show databases is basically the command to view the list of all the databases present in your RDBMS software. And the next command is how to activate a database. Okay, so in our RDBMS software there are many databases. So if I want to activate a particular database, then what I have to write? I will write use and the name of the database. Like suppose if I want to activate the database company, then I will write use company. Okay. Now, and the last command which we have discussed in the previous lecture is that how to view the list of all tables present in an active database. So suppose we activated a database and now we want to view that how many tables are present in that database and what are the names of those tables. So show tables is basically the command to view the list of all the tables present in the active database, right? So these three commands we have discussed in the previous lecture. So now today we are going to start a particular command, that is creation of a table in the database. Okay, so under DDL commands we are studying the create command. Okay, and we know that create command is basically used to create the database as well as tables within the current database. Okay, so we have already seen that how we can create a blank new database with the create command. We have already seen, but now we want to see that how we can create a table by using the create command. Okay, so before creation of the table, three important things must be clear in our mind. And what are those three important things? The first one is the field names. The first one is basically the field name. Now, what is the field name? Suppose if I want to create table of an employee, so what kind of information I want to store? So suppose I want to store the employee code, employee name, salary, department. So these are basically the fields for the table employee. Suppose I want to store information of student, then roll number, name, course, section, these all are the field names of the student table. So basically field names depends on the table name. Okay, so basically field name depends only on the type of table which we are going to store. So if we are going to store the table of student, then we have to suggest the field names according to the table student, right? The next important thing is data type. Data type basically refers to the type of value that is going to be stored in the field. Let me explain you this thing. Suppose I have a field named as name. So obviously name will store the name of the particular persons. So name contains only the character data. Suppose there is a field named as age. So obviously age will store the integer data. Suppose there is a field named as date of birth. So date of birth field will store only the date. So basically data type means the type of value that is going to be stored in the particular field. And the last thing is that constraints. So constraints are basically the limitation that we impose on the field. Okay, as we know that primary key constraint is there, foreign key constraint is there. So these are basically the constraints. We already discussed about the primary key and foreign key in our previous lectures. In this lecture I am going to explain you some more constraints also, right? So before creation of the table we have to clarify these things, that what are the field names which I am going to use in my table, and what are the data types for each and every field, and what are the constraints that I am going to impose on that fields. Now the first thing which we are going to study is the data type, because before creation of the table we have to know that what are the data types available in MySQL for me. The first data type is integer, right? So this integer is basically used when you want to store any value which does not contain decimal, yani the value must be without decimal. Okay, so if you want to suppose let's take an example like there is a field named as age. So obviously we know that the age will store the data in integer form, that is without decimal. Okay, suppose there is a field name as roll number. So roll numbers are 1, 2, 3, 4. So obviously these are the data without decimal. So the integer data type is used in those fields in which we don't want to store any decimal data. We want to store only the integer data, that is without decimal data in it. Okay, the next thing is decimal. So as I told you earlier that integer is basically used in those fields in which we want to store the data which does not contain decimal part. But suppose if we want to store a particular data which contains the decimal part, then we use the another data type, that is decimal. Okay, so to store the data with decimal we use the decimal field, and I have written an example. Suppose if I written like decimal 6 comma 2. So what does it mean if I write decimal 6 comma 2? Let me explain you about this. Suppose when you write decimal 6 comma 2, it means that before decimal only 4 digits are allowed. Okay, before decimal only 4 digits are allowed, maximum 4 digits are allowed, and after decimal only 2 digits are allowed. So as you can see that it is written 2, it means that after decimal maximum 2 digits can be allowed, and it is written over here that is 6. So what does it mean? That 6 minus 2 is 4. So it means before decimal you can store a number which contains maximum 4 digits, and after decimal you can store a number which contains maximum 2 digits, and the whole number contains only maximum 6 digits only. Okay, let me show you an example. Suppose just wait. Suppose if I written 123.45, so it will be accepted. Why? Because the decimal, after decimal we have only 2 digits with us, and before decimal we have 3 digits with us. Maximum 4 digits can be stored. Okay, maximum, as you can see that maximum 4 digits can be stored before the decimal part, and it is right now it is holding 3 digits only. Now after that, suppose if I have written 1234.45, so obviously it will be also accepted. Why? Because before decimal it is containing 4 digits, and we know that maximum 4 digits are allowed. But suppose if I write 1234.5.23, then what will happen? So this data will not be accepted. Why? Because before decimal it is containing 5 digits, and according to this parameter only 4 digits are allowed before the decimal point. I hope you clear that what is the function of this decimal 6 comma 2, right? So let's move on to some other data types. The third one is CHAR. The CHAR is used to store fixed length character. Okay, and how we are going to write it? We have to write it like this: CHAR, and within the brackets we write the size, that is maximum number of elements that can be stored in that field. Okay, so what is the fixed length? I will explain you later on. Now there is one more data type which is basically used for dealing with the characters, and that is VARCHAR, and we call it as variable length character, and the syntax is same. You have to write VARCHAR 10. Now what is the difference between this char 10 and varchar 10? I will explain you later on in the next slide. Now, so till now we have discussed about integer, decimal, char and varchar. After that the next data type is date. As I told you that if I want to store the date of birth, then how can I store it? For storing such kind of values, I will use a data type named as date, and the syntax is the pattern in which I have to store the date is YYY means first you have to write the year. Suppose if I want to store the today date, so today is 2020 is basically the year dash, month is 04 dash, and the date is 03. Okay, so it's 3rd April 2020. So this is the pattern for the storing. Suppose if I want to store this date, then you have to follow this pattern. First you have to write the year, then month, then date. Okay, and after that the last one is the time, and this is basically used to store the time. Suppose if in a table I have to store the login time and the log of time, so obviously this time field, time data type is used in that case. Now after that, let us understand the difference between char and varchar in detail. So the next slide is basically for finding the difference between the char and varchar. So we have to understand about these two things. Now the first difference point is that char is used to store the fixed length character data. Remember the point, fixed length. Okay, and the varchar is basically used for storing the variable length character data. The first difference is that it is going to store the fixed length character data, and it is going to store the variable length character data. Now what does it mean? Suppose if I have written like char 10, okay, so and also I have written varchar 10, so what will happen? Suppose when I write char 10, then obviously I get a space to store the 10 character data. As you can see that I have get a boxes for storing the data, and the total number of boxes are 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. So total 10 boxes are there for storing the data. Suppose I stored a name in it, that is Sakshi. Now you can see that the Sakshi word consumes only the 6 space in it, 1 2 3 4 5 6, and the rest 4 space are left. But in case of char, what it will do, it will not leave it as blank. What it will do, it will consume these 4 spaces also. How? It will fill blank spaces in it, so that the entire 10 space area is consumed. It will never leave this field empty. It will just fill a blank character in it, so that the entire size it must be used. So that's why we call it as fixed length. Why? As you see that it has given the length as 10, so it will consume the entire length. If the data entered by you is shorter than the given length, then it will consume the left space just by adding blank in it. So what is the purpose of it? It has to consume the entire space. Okay, so that's why we call it as fixed length, that because in this case whatever data you are going to store, it will consume the entire 10 space for it. Okay, but in case of varchar, suppose again as I have written 10 over here, so it means I get a space of 10, and suppose I stored the word Sakshi, then the 4 space are left. But this varchar will not forcefully fill some characters in these left spaces. No, it will, no blank spaces will be added in it. So now you can see that in case of char, it add the blank spaces to consume the left blocks, but in this case it does not include any blank spaces. to consume the left blocks? No. In this case, if we consider the size of the data, then it will show me 6. But in this case, in the case of CHAR, if I check the size of the data, then the system will give me answer as 10. Why? Because it consumes the entire space. But in case of VARCHAR, if I check the length of the data, then it will show me 6, because it consider only the blocks in which the data is present. It does not forcefully fill the blank spaces in the left blocks. Okay. So the next point is that, as you see, that it consumes the entire allocated space. The first thing, that it consumes the entire allocated space. Whatever space you have provided to him, it consumes all the entire space. So if user provide data less than the size of the blocks, suppose in this case the size of the blocks is 10, but the user provided a data whose size is 6. I have stored a word Sakshi in it, and the length of the word Sakshi is 6. So it is less than the allocated space. Then what it will do, blanks are added in the left block. So whatever block is left, it forcefully added blank in it, so that the entire space is consumed. But in case of VARCHAR, it consumes only that area which is required to store the given data. So it doesn't consume the entire space. It consumes only that space which is used to store the data, and does not fill blanks in the left blocks. So whatever blocks are left, it doesn't fill any blank character in it. It leaves the blocks as it is, right? So basically, CHAR is used in those cases in which we are confirmed that the size of the data must be like this. Okay. So in that cases, we use the CHAR, and whenever we are not sure that how much data is required, so in that case we can use VARCHAR. Okay. Now after that, the next thing is that we are going to study about the constraints. Now what are the constraints? Let me explain you. We have already studied about the key constraint, that is primary key, candidate key, alternate key, and foreign key in our previous lectures. So let us understand some more constraints before creating the table. The first one is the null constraint. So why we use the null constraint? Suppose if we want to impose a limitation that the user is not allowed to leave a particular field empty while entering a record. So what we will do, we will put a not null constraint for that field. So if we put a not null constraint for that field, this constraint does not allow field to be left blank. Okay, so suppose you are entering a record, and while entering the record you can't leave the field, that particular field empty, on which we have put the constraint not null. Next thing is check. So as you see that primary key, candidate key, alternate key, foreign key, these are the predefined constraints. Predefined means the condition under these constraints is already defined by the Mysql software. But you know, there are some cases in which the user want to impose some limitation according to his own requirement. So for that, how user can set? Suppose I have created a field age, and I don't want that any person whose age is less than 18 should be entered in the table. I don't want to enter such kind of record. So how I can impose such limitation that that any record in which the age is less than 18 should not be entered in the table? So it is a user defined constraint. Okay. So for assigning any constraints which is as per my requirement, so for that I use the check constraint. So as you see that this constraint allow user to set user defined conditions on the field. Okay. The last one is the default. So what is the basic purpose of the default constraint. Default allows us to set up default value for a particular field. So what will happen if a default value is set for that field? So while entering a record, if I don't enter a value for that field, then the system will automatically insert the default value in that field. Okay, if I don't provide value, then the system will automatically insert the default value which is set by the user in that field. But if I provide a value, then the system will enter only the data provided by the user only. So this constraint allow user to set the default value for the field, so that if user does not provide the value, then the default value get inserted in the field for the currently added record. Okay, so I hope you are clear that when we are adding a particular record, and suppose we doesn't provide value for that field on which the default constraint is set, then that will automatically take the default value. But if I provide some value, then the field will take the value which is provided by the user only, right? So these are some constraints which must be understand before creation of the table. So the next thing is the syntax for the table creation. So how we are going to create the table? That first we have to write the create table, and then we have to write the table name. Okay, as I already told you earlier, then that whatever we write in the angle brackets will be changed while writing the command. Okay, so what we have to do, we have to write first the create table and the table name, then we put the bracket, and then one by one, first I have to specify the name of the first field, then the data type for that field, and if I want to set any constraint for it, then I have to write the constraint for it. Okay, so then field name, then data type, then again constraints. So let me show an example. Suppose first we will create from this. So now this, like if I want to create a table employee, so what I will do, create table. Okay, so you have to write create table as it is, and then you have to write the name of the table. Suppose I have given the name of the table as employee, so that's why I put table name in angle bracket, because the table name can be changed. Okay, so after writing the table name, you have to press enter, then put the bracket, and then you will write the field name. Suppose the field name is E code, employee code, and then you have to write the data type for that field. Suppose the data type is integer, and then you have to put the constraint for that field. Suppose I put the constraint as primary key. Okay, so after writing the constraint primary key, then what you have to do, this is over here it is given comma. Okay, so put the comma and press enter, and then enter the data of the second field. Suppose ename varchar 10, and suppose I don't want that the user will leave the ename empty, then I will put the constraint not null. Okay, comma salary integer, and I want that the salary must be more than 3000. It should not be less than 3000. So this is the user defined condition. So you will write check salary should be greater than 3000. Okay, so after specifying all these things, what you will do, that once you have written this condition, press enter, close the bracket and semicolon. Okay, so you can see that here I have written first create, then table, then the name of the table which I want to give, and then bracket, and while giving about the field, while telling about the field, first I write the field name, then I will write the data type for that particular field, then I have to write the constraint for that field. Okay, and similarly comma, then I have to go for the second field, write the name of the field, data type for that field, and the constraint for that field. So let me run this command through MySQL software also. So let me open this MySQL command line client. So now it is open. Previously I set a password Shadley. So now the MySQL software is open. You know, before doing any work, first of all we have to activate a database. So let us see that the names of the database show databases. So these are the name of the databases, and in the previous class we have created a database named as company. So let us activate this database. So the table will be created in this database only, use company. So now the message is shown that database change. It means the company database get activated. Okay, now I want to create a table in it. So create table. Now what is the name of the table? That is employee. Okay, we want to give name to this table as employee. Then press enter, bracket. The first field is eCode, integer, primary key, comma. Then the second is ename, VARCHAR 10, not null, comma. Then salary, integer, check, salary must be greater than 3000. So now you can see that after writing this command, query OK message is shown. It means the table is created in my database. So as I told you earlier that there is a command named as show tables, which gives me the list of all the tables present in the active database. So right now the active database is company. So if I write command show tables, then you can see that right now the table employee is present in the list because I have recently created this table. Okay, now suppose if you want to see the description of that particular table. So what you will write, DESC basically for describe, and then you will write the name of the table, that is employee, and press enter. So now you can get the table in which you get the detail of the particular table employee which you have specified, that these are the field names, that eCode, ename, salary. These are the types, this is integer, varchar 10, we have specified varchar 10 over here. Okay, so eCode null, no null values allowed, and ename we have already set not null, so no null values, and this is the primary key because eCode we have set it as primary key. Okay, so if you want to view the description of a particular table, then you will use this command, that is DESC employee. Okay, I hope you clear that what is basically the syntax of creating the table and how we can create it. Okay, so I have completed the first command of the DDL, that is create. Now the second command of the DDL is alter command. So what is the basic purpose of this alter command? This command is used to make changes in the structure of the table. Okay, so what is the purpose of this command? This command is basically used to make changes in the structure of the table. Now when we use this alter command in our table, we have three options with it. The first option is add, second option is modify, third option is drop. Okay, so we know that alter command is basically used to make changes in the structure of the table, and in order to make changes in the structure of the table, we use three options with the alter command, and they are add, modify, and drop. Okay, let me explain you the first command, that is add. Suppose we have a table named as employee, and I have created three fields in it, eCode, ename, salary. Okay, now after creating these three fields, I forgot to add a particular field in it, and the field is department. Okay, I forgot to add the field department in it. Now I want to add this field. So how I can add department in it? Let me show you the command, how I can write the command. So how we'll write alter table, then you will write the name of the table, that is employee. Okay, and now you want to add the field, so you will write add. Okay, so now you can see that I am using add option with the alter command. So alter table, then the name of the table, then add space. Now I want to add the field department, and suppose I have given the size as varchar 20, right? And if you want to give any constraint, then you can give it also, that is not null. So I have given the name of the field as department, then the data type as varchar 20, and the constant is not null, and then semicolon, and press enter. So now you can see that the message is displayed that query OK. So it means a new field is added in the table. Let me check again by specifying the describe command. So desc employee. So now you can see that when I describe the command employee, you can see that right now a new field is also shown in the description of that table, that is department. Okay, now again, suppose if I want to add two more fields also, one is the post and other one is the hobby. So how I can add these two fields? Suppose right now I have in the previously I added just one field, but suppose if I want to add two fields, then how I can do that? So alter table employee add. Now at this time I am entering two fields, not a single field. Then what I have to do, I have to put bracket. Okay, then I will write post varchar 20 not null, comma, and another field hobby varchar suppose 30. Okay, so now you can see that I have written alter table employee add, and because there are more than one field, that's why I put the fields in within the brackets, and within the bracket I have specified the first field as post varchar 20 not null, then comma, and then I have write the next field hobby varchar 30, and then closing bracket and semicolon. So now after writing this, let me describe the table once again. So let me see that whether these two fields are added in the table or not. So now you can see that this table also contains post and hobby in it. Okay, so in this way you can see that after creation of the table you can also add some fields in it by using the add option with the alter command. Okay, now let's see another example. Suppose now my table employee contains these fields: e-code, e-name, salary, department, post and hobby. The data type of the e-name is varchar 10, but after creating it, now I think that suppose if a person name is more than 10 characters, then obviously its data can't be stored in a proper manner. Now I want to change the size of e-name from varchar 10 to varchar 20. So how I can change it? So in order to change these types of things, I use the modify option with the alter command. Okay, so the second option with the alter command is modify. So now I am going to use it with the alter command. Let's alter table, and the name of the table is employee. Okay, then I put modify. Now I have to modify e-name and put the size as varchar 20. That's it. Okay, so how I write is alter table, then the name of the table, that is employee, modify, then you have to write the name of the field which you want to modify, and then if you want to change the size, then you can change the size. If you want to add any other constraint, then you can also write that constraint after this data type varchar 20, you can write any other constant if you want to apply. Okay, so now I don't want to apply any other constant. I simply press put semicolon and press enter. So now you can see that it shows me a message that query OK, 0 rows affected. Let me describe the table to see that whether right now the ename has the size varchar 10. So let me see that whether the size is increased or not. So describe employee. So now you can see that the field ename size is varchar 20. Okay, I hope it is clear to you. And the last thing is that suppose I have a table named as employee which contains all these fields. Okay, now after creating this table, I have a problem with this hobby field, because some employees are telling me their hobby and some are not telling me. So after creation of the table, I feel that this hobby field is useless. So I want to remove this field from my table. So how I can remove this field from my table? So in order to remove this field from my table, I will specify the command alter table employee drop hobby, alter table employee, and then I am using the option drop with the hobby, alter table employee drop hobby. So now you can see that query OK 0 lets me again describe the table to see whether the hobby field is removed from the table or not. Now you can see that when I describe the table, there is no field by the name of hobby. Okay, so now you can see that we have discussed about 3 options with the alter command. Okay, so alter command, we used the first option with the alter command, that is add. This is basically used to add new fields in an existing table. Second, modify. This is basically used to make changes in the fields of an existing table. And the third one is drop. So it is used to basically remove a particular field from an existing table. So now you can see that in this way, the alter command is used to make changes in the structure of the table. Because when we add the particular field in the table, then the structure of the table get increased. When we remove a particular field, then the structure of the table get decreased. And also when we modify a field from size 10 to 20, then obviously the structure of the table is changed. So basically these 3 options, whenever used with the alter command, they can only change the structure of the table. So I hope it is clear to you. So we have discussed about the 2 commands. The first one is the alter, and the second one is the first one is the create command, and the second one is the alter command. Okay, now let me write some points about this add and modify also. So alter command, as you know, that this command is used to make changes in the structure of the table. Okay, and when we use add option, what will the purpose of this add option? This option is used to add new field in an existing table. So this option is used to add new field in an existing table. And what is the purpose of the second command? So this option is used to make changes in the data type or constraint associated with a particular field present in the table. Okay, so the first one is Add, this option is used to add new field in an existing table. When you want to, if you want to write an example, then you can simply write it that my SQL alter table employee add. Suppose if I want to add a simple one field, department, varchar 20 not null. Okay, so this is the command for adding a particular field. So you can write to add a single field. Okay, and suppose if you want to add multiple fields, to add multiple fields, you will write it like this: MySQL alter table employee add bracket, and within the bracket you can write post varchar 20 not null, comma, and after post you can write hobby varchar 30. Okay, and after writing the command you simply press this this bracket and close it. So this is the basically alter. And modify, as you see that modify is basically used to make changes in the data type or constraint associated with the field. So one example for it also, that alter table employee modify that is ename varchar 20. Okay, so in this way the size of the field get increased, and drop is used. This option is used with alter command to remove a particular field from an existing table. Okay, and the example is like alter table employee drop, the name of the field which I want to drop is hobby. Okay, so drop hobby. So this is an example of alter command. So if you want to write the short note on the alter command, then you have to write this definition, then you have to write the definition of the add, and after that just write this, first write the syntax, as I've already, as you can see that what is the syntax. Okay, and then you will write the example, or you can do one thing, you can straight away write the example and explain what the purpose of this example also. Okay, so this is basically a short note on the alter command which you can use. Now after that, the last command which we are left with, the drop. Now a question arises in your mind that drop is already done, but you know there is a drop command other than the alter, because drop command we use in two ways. One we use with the alter, and there is another way in which the drop command is used individually also. So what is the purpose of this drop command? This command is used to permanently remove the specified table from the database. Suppose if I want to remove a particular table completely from my database, then I will use this drop command. Okay, so let me explain you this. First of all, I write a command that is show tables. So now you can see that in the company database there are two tables, one is the employee and other one is the XY table. Okay, so suppose I want to remove this XY table. So how I can remove it? I will simply write drop table, and what is the name of the table? That is XY. So when I write and press enter, so you can see that query is okay. Let me again see the list of tables. So now you can see that there is no table by the name of xy, because by issuing the drop command, I have already removed that table from the database. So drop command, when used individually, it will use to remove the particular table entirely from the database. So as you know, drop when used with the alter command, that is basically used to remove a particular field from the table, and when the drop is used individually, then its function is to remove a particular table completely, permanently from a database. Okay, so these are the topics which we have to discuss today, which we discussed today. So do one thing, practice all these things, and make notes in your register regarding all these commands. So today we have completed the DDL section of the Mysql commands, and in the next lecture I am going to start with the DML section of the SQL commands. Okay, so I am ending this lecture. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.